9 years ago, my mother Antonia drove me and my sister Faith 7 hours from everything we knew and left us in a motel that smelled like cigarettes in desperation. Faith was 11. I was 14. Antonia threw $200 on the bed and told us we were adults now, and she wasn't wasting her youth raising us alone while our father rotted in prison. New life, new her. Forget she exists. The motel owner told us she paid for 5 days. After that, we were on the street. I found her note under the money explaining that our father was doing 25 to life for armed robbery, and she never signed up to be a single mother. She wrote that she met someone named Nicholas who didn't want kids around and she was choosing herself for once. No emergency contacts, no family phone numbers, nothing. Faith sat by that window for months waiting for Antonia's car to pull back in. I told her mom would come back because I didn't know what else to say. Day 6, the manager banged on our door demanding money or we were out. I begged him for a dishwashing job in the motel restaurant, $4 an hour under the table. I was 14 working 12-hour shifts while Faith did homework in the back room. We survived because we had no other choice. I need everyone to sit with this for a second. A 14-year-old negotiating for a dishwashing job so his 11-year-old sister doesn't sleep on the street, while their mother is out there somewhere starting her hot girl summer with Nicholas. And you know what kills me? The detail about Faith sitting at that window for months. Because kids don't understand abandonment the way adults do. Adults process betrayal. Kids just wait. They wait because their brain literally cannot compute that the person who's supposed to protect them chose a man over them. That window might as well have been a shrine to false hope, and this kid had to watch his little sister worship at it every single night knowing their mother was never coming back. Some of y'all had parents who were late picking you up from school and still bring it up in therapy. This kid was doing 12-hour shifts at 14. I spent 9 years building something from that. Got my GED at 16, community college at 17, transferred to State University on a full scholarship. Faith graduated high school last year and started nursing school this fall. We share a 2-bedroom apartment now. We made it without Antonia, and I never forgot what she did to us. Not for one single day. Here's what people need to understand. I didn't move on. I didn't heal. I didn't forgive. Every promotion I got, every dollar I saved, every connection I made, I was thinking about the day Antonia would need something from me. Because people like her always come back when their new life falls apart. Nicholas would leave eventually. The money would run out. She'd remember she had kids and suddenly want to play mother again. I was ready. 4 days ago, my phone started blowing up with messages from a number I didn't recognize. 50 messages in 3 hours, all caps screaming that it was my mother and everything was falling apart and she was begging me to answer. She found my number through Faith's old classmate who still had her on social media. Antonia had been messaging anyone connected to us for weeks, apparently. I read every single one of those messages and felt nothing but satisfaction. 9 years of waiting, and here she was exactly like I predicted. Desperate, panicking, needing her children after throwing us away like garbage. This is where some people in the comments are going to start clutching their pearls, talking about forgiveness sets you free, and holding on to anger is like drinking poison. Save it. Save all of it. Because here's what those motivational posters don't tell you. Some people don't get to heal on a normal timeline. Some people's entire personality gets forged in the fire of survival, and you don't get to tell them how to process that. This man built an entire life with revenge as his North Star. GED at 16 while probably still doing dishes. Full scholarship. Got his sister through high school and into nursing school. Some people run marathons for their health. This guy ran a marathon fueled by pure I'll show you energy and still cross the finish line. Is it healthy? Probably not. But you know what else isn't healthy? Abandoning your children in a motel with roaches. So maybe we pump the brakes on judging his coping mechanisms. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because I had something better planned. 3 years ago, I found out through public records that Antonia and Nicholas bought a house together. They put both names on the mortgage, but only his name on the deed because her credit was destroyed. I also found out Nicholas has a brother named Jesse who lives 2 hours away from us. Jesse and I have been talking for 8 months about what kind of man his brother really is. Faith doesn't know about any of this. She still checks Antonia's Facebook sometimes, even though she pretends she doesn't care. She asked me last night if I saw the messages. I told her I did. She asked what I was going to do about it. I told her I was going to do exactly what I'd been planning for years. She just looked at me and said she hoped I knew what I was doing. I do. Trust me. I absolutely do. This man has been playing 4D chess while Antonia was playing Candy Crush. 8 months of building an alliance with Nicholas's own brother. Public records research, credit history knowledge. This isn't revenge. This is a thesis defense. He's about to walk into this situation with a PowerPoint presentation and cited sources. And Faith checking Antonia's Facebook while pretending not to care? That's the most heartbreaking detail because it shows the wound never closed for her either. She just learned to hide it better. These two kids became adults way too fast. And now one of them is about to cash in 9 years of emotional receipts, while the other one is scared of what her brother became. This family drama has more layers than a Netflix limited series. And we're just getting started. Update 1. Alright Reddit, so a lot happened since my last post and things are escalating faster than I expected. First, let me explain the Jesse situation. 8 months ago, I was researching Nicholas through public records when I noticed he had a brother in his tagged photos. Jesse lived 2 hours from me, so I reached out through Instagram introducing myself as one of the kids Antonia abandoned. Jesse responded within an hour. Turns out he hates Nicholas. Their parents left Nicholas everything when they died because Jesse was the troublemaker and Nicholas was the golden child. Jesse got nothing. So when I told him what Nicholas helped do to 2 children, he was more than happy to talk. Jesse told me something important last week. Nicholas and Antonia are broke. The house they bought is underwater because they refinanced twice. Nicholas lost his job 8 months ago. They're 3 months behind on the mortgage and foreclosure started. That's why Antonia suddenly remembers she has children. She needs money or a place to stay. I finally responded to Antonia 2 days ago. Told her I'd meet, but only on my terms. She agreed immediately. Desperate people always do. We met in a grocery store parking lot 40 minutes from my apartment, public and on my territory. She looked older and tired and scared. Good. I need everyone to appreciate the poetry of this situation. Nicholas was the golden child who got everything, and now he's losing everything. And his own brother is helping it happen. The universe said, you know what? Let's make this interesting. Because Jesse isn't just being petty about inheritance. He watched his brother help convince a woman to dump her kids in a motel and said, yeah, I've been waiting for my moment too. This is a revenge coalition, a trauma support group that meets specifically to coordinate downfall, and Antonia agreeing immediately to meet on his terms? 9 years ago, she had all the power. She could walk away, leave money on a bed, disappear. Now she's taking meetings in grocery store parking lots like she's selling essential oils and hoping for a breakthrough. The power shift is so dramatic I need a chiropractor just from reading it. She started making excuses before I could speak. Sorry she was in a bad place and Nicholas convinced her and she thought we'd be better off. I let her talk for 10 minutes without saying a word. When she stopped, I asked if she remembered Faith sitting by that motel window every night for 3 months waiting for her. Antonia started crying and said she couldn't think about that because she had bigger problems. Bigger problems. Her 11-year-old crying herself to sleep wasn't as important as her current situation. I told her I knew about the foreclosure and Nicholas being unemployed. Her face changed when she realized I had information she didn't expect. She demanded to know how I knew Jesse. I told her it didn't matter. I had no intention of helping her, but I wasn't done with her yet. She said Nicholas wasn't going to let this go quietly, and if I kept talking to Jesse, things would get complicated for everyone. Update coming because Faith just texted asking why Antonia messaged her saying I threatened her. I couldn't think about that because I had bigger problems. I want this tattooed on a wall somewhere as the official motto of every narcissistic parent who's ever existed. Her 11-year-old was having a 3-month breakdown at a motel window, and this woman is sitting here in 2024, or whatever year this is saying her foreclosure is the bigger problem. Ma'am, your foreclosure is a consequence. Your daughter's trauma is a tragedy. These are not the same category of problem. And then, the second she realizes her son has actual intel, she pivots immediately from sad crying mom to Nicholas won't let this go quietly. That's a threat. She went from victim to threatening in under 60 seconds. This woman contains multitudes and all of them are trash. Update 2. So the situation with Faith exploded and now I'm dealing with multiple problems at once. After Antonia messaged Faith claiming I threatened her, Faith came home and demanded to know what was going on. I had to tell her everything. About Jesse, about the foreclosure, about meeting Antonia in that parking lot. Faith was furious, but not at Antonia, at me. She said I had no right to do any of this without telling her because Antonia was her mother too, and this affected her life too. She asked how long I'd been planning this behind her back and I told her years. Faith said she understood why I was angry but that I was becoming someone she didn't recognize. That hurt more than I expected, but I reminded her about the motel, about the roaches, about her sitting at that window waiting. She went quiet and then asked what exactly my plan was because she deserved to know. I told her the truth. I wanted Antonia to lose everything and have nowhere to turn. I wanted her to feel exactly what we felt. Abandoned, desperate, alone. Faith asked if that would actually make anything better, and I said it wasn't about making things better. It was about justice. Then Nicholas showed up at our apartment complex. I don't know how he got our address, but I'm guessing Antonia found it through the same social media connections she used to find my number. He was waiting by my car when I came out for work the next morning. Big guy. Looked like he hadn't slept in days. He started talking immediately, saying I needed to stay away from his brother and stop filling Jesse's head with garbage. That whatever happened 9 years ago was between Antonia and her kids and had nothing to do with him. I asked him if convincing a mother to abandon her children in a motel had nothing to do with him. He said Antonia made her own choices and he just supported the woman he loved. Then he tried a different approach. He said they were willing to make things right. That if I stopped talking to Jesse and convinced Faith to help them keep the house, they'd pay us back over time. I laughed. Actually, laughed. I asked him how they planned to pay anyone back when they couldn't even pay their mortgage. Nicholas got angry. He said I didn't understand how hard things had been for them. That Antonia had been struggling with guilt for years, and I was making everything worse. I told him guilt was the bare minimum she should feel. He said if I kept pushing this, Jesse would tell him everything I was planning. I said Jesse already had. That's when Nicholas realized his brother wasn't playing both sides. Jesse genuinely wanted to see him fail. Nicholas left, but not before saying this wasn't over and that Antonia deserved a chance to make things right with her children. I told him she had 9 years to reach out. She only came back when she needed something. Faith watched the whole thing from our balcony. After Nicholas drove off, she came down and said we needed to talk about what happens next because Antonia messaged her again asking to meet. Just the two of them. Okay, so Faith being mad at her brother and not Antonia is actually the most psychologically realistic thing in this entire story. Because when you're abandoned as a kid, part of you builds this fantasy that maybe there's an explanation. Maybe mom was kidnapped by the circumstances. Maybe she'll come back with a reason that makes it okay. And when your sibling, the person who also suffered, starts dismantling that fantasy, you get mad at them because they're destroying the last bit of hope you were secretly holding on to. Faith isn't defending Antonia. She's mourning the mother she wished existed. Meanwhile, Nicholas shows up talking about she's been struggling with guilt for years. Brother, guilt that you keep to yourself while your kids work 12-hour shifts isn't guilt, it's just comfort. Guilt that doesn't make you pick up a phone in 9 years is just an emotion you're aware of, not something you're actually processing. And the audacity of him saying pay you back over time when they can't pay their mortgage? Sir, your payment plan would outlive us all. Final update. Faith met with Antonia alone. I didn't want her to go, but she said she needed to do this for herself, not for me. She came back 3 hours later and sat on the couch without saying anything for a long time. Finally, she told me what happened. Antonia spent the first hour crying and apologizing and explaining how Nicholas had convinced her they deserved a life without burdens. How she convinced herself we'd be fine because I was always the responsible one. How she thought about us every day but was too ashamed to reach out. Faith listened to all of it. Then Faith asked Antonia one question. She asked if Antonia ever tried to find us, even once. Antonia admitted she hadn't, not in 9 years. She knew we survived because she checked social media occasionally, but she never actually reached out until she needed something. Faith told her that was the only answer that mattered. Antonia begged Faith to convince me to help them keep the house. Said they'd make me a co-owner. Said they'd pay us back everything. Faith told her we didn't want her house or her money. We wanted the 9 years back that she stole from us, and since she couldn't give us that, she had nothing we needed. Faith asked one question and ended this woman's entire emotional manipulation arc. Did you ever try to find us? That's it. That's the whole game. Because every excuse Antonia gave, Nicholas convinced me, I thought you'd be fine, I was ashamed. All of that falls apart when you admit you never even tried. You had Facebook. You knew they survived. You watched from a distance like they were a TV show you stopped watching but occasionally checked the Wikipedia summary for. I thought about you every day means nothing when thinking is free and action costs something. Antonia wanted credit for her private guilt while her kids were publicly struggling, and Faith saw through every single layer of that performance. This wasn't closure for Faith. This was confirmation. She didn't go to that meeting hoping for a mother. She went to bury the hope she'd been carrying for 9 years, and Antonia handed her the shovel. The foreclosure went through last week. Jesse texted me the details. The bank took the house and Antonia and Nicholas have 30 days to vacate. Nicholas tried reaching out to Jesse asking for a place to stay, and Jesse told him the same thing I told Antonia. He had years to be a decent person and he chose not to be. Antonia messaged both of us begging for help finding an apartment. Said they had nowhere to go and no money for deposits. I responded for the first time since our parking lot meeting. I told her there was a motel about 7 hours from here that rented rooms by the week. Told her the owner might give her a deal if she explained her situation. She didn't respond. Nicholas sent me a long message calling me heartless and saying I was punishing Antonia for one mistake she made when she was young and scared. I told him abandoning your children isn't a mistake. It's a choice. And choices have consequences, even if they take 9 years to arrive. The motel callback. This man waited 9 years to deliver that line, and it landed like a meteor hitting a dinosaur. There's a motel 7 hours from here. The symmetry, the audacity, the absolute poetic justice of it all. And Nicholas calling it one mistake when she was young and scared. Sir, she was a mother. She wasn't young and scared making a choice about college majors. She was an adult woman who looked at her 11 and 14-year-old children and decided they were acceptable collateral damage for her new relationship. That's not a mistake, that's a values statement. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is sending an email to the wrong person. A mistake is not something you commit to for 9 years while watching your kids figure it out through social media. Nicholas really thought young and scared was going to be the legal defense that got them a guest room. Brother, you are not the lawyer you think you are. Faith and I talked about everything last night. She said she wasn't angry at me anymore. She understood why I did what I did, even if she wished I'd included her from the beginning. She said watching Antonia beg and make excuses didn't give her closure. It just confirmed what she already knew. Our mother chose herself over us and never stopped choosing herself. I asked Faith if she felt bad about any of it. She said she felt bad that she wasted years hoping Antonia would come back and be a real mother. But she didn't feel bad about what was happening now. Antonia made her choice 9 years ago. We were just finally making ours. Jesse told me Nicholas and Antonia are staying in a weekly rental motel 2 states away. Different motel, same situation. No family willing to help, no savings, no plan. 9 years ago, Antonia threw $200 on a bed and told us to figure it out. Now she gets to figure it out herself. That's the update, Reddit. Some of you asked if revenge would make me feel better. Honestly, it doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like the ending that was always coming. And that right there is the line that separates this from a revenge fantasy. It doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like the ending that was always coming. Because revenge implies you did something to someone. What happened here is that Antonia's choices finally caught up to her, and her kids just refused to be the safety net. They didn't sabotage her life. She did that herself with refinancing and unemployment and burning every bridge. All they did was decline to save her from consequences she spent 9 years building. And Faith's realization that watching her mother beg didn't give her closure? That's the most honest thing anyone's ever said about confronting the people who hurt you. Closure isn't something other people give you. It's something you build yourself, brick by brick. While they're still out there being exactly who they always were,